Namaskar, good morning, Swagatam, ladies and gentlemen, to the day 2 of the 20th Sa-Dhan National Conference on Inclusive Growth with its theme, Building Resilient Microfinance, Promoting Inclusive and Responsible Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, after an illuminating and a very informative day 1, we are all ready for yet another very eventful and a day full of exploration. And we begin this wonderful day with a fireside chat with two iconic personalities on the issues around financial inclusion to customer prosperity, a new lending approach. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very honored to have with us our distinguished guests for the fireside chat. May I request everyone present in the hall to kindly put their hands together, and with a huge round of applause, may we welcome the iconic and legendary member NITI Aayog, Dr Arvind Virmani, to kindly join us onto the stage. And may I also request the stalwart economist, CEO and founder director, EGROW Foundation, Dr. Charan Singh, to kindly join us onto the stage. May I also request ED and CEO Sa-Dhan, Mr. Gigi Mahaman, to kindly accompany them onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause as we welcome our distinguished guest onto the stage. And may I now request Gigi Mahaman sir to kindly join us onto the stage, and our Sa-Dhan comrade to kindly welcome our distinguished guest with a shawl and a planter. Please put your hands together as we welcome Dr. Arvind Virmani, and requesting Gigi Mahaman sir to welcome him with a shawl and a planter. May we all put our hands together as we welcome Dr. Arvind Virmani. We now present a shawl and a planter to Dr. Charan Singh and welcome him to this fireside chat. Warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much. A moment that we all have been waiting for has finally arrived. We have two very iconic and legendary personalities, and we are waiting for get some very valuable inputs from them. Without any further ado, may I request Dr. Charan Singh to kindly take over. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. I must thank Sa-Dhan and Mr. Gigi Mahaman to invite us for this fireside chat. Really honored that we have Dr. Arvind Virmani, member NITI Aayog, come and speak and participate in this very important event, the annual Sa-Dhan meet. Sir, we are thankful to you for having accepted this invite right in the morning. Sa-Dhan is a very, very important institution in terms of microfinance. They've been doing a great job over the last so many years. Microfinance institutions themselves have been flourishing extensively in our country. The team here, the people here are all from the microfinance institutions, all affiliated to Sa-Dhan. We were wondering, sir, you are at NITI Aayog, you have played very important role in this journey of the country over the last so many years. You've been member, you have also been the executive director at the IMF, you've been the chief economic advisor of our country. You have also been associated for a very long time with reforms which India did in 1991. India right now is on the cusp of Viksit Bharat. As Prime Minister generally calls it, the Amrit Kal. So, sir, we would like to know from you, what is the overall macroeconomic situation in our country? What is the direction that we are taking as you see it? The landmarks that we have covered in the past so many years, especially in the last 10 years, the paradigm shift that one can witness in the growth trajectory and the strategy and the direction forward. So we would like to listen from you on these major macro issues.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Charan Singh, and I'm happy to be here. But the question you asked is very broad, but I should keep, there's so many other things to discuss, so let me try and think. So let me start with a few general points. You've given me a wide canvas. So as an economist, you know, a PM has his own way of thinking and his own vision, and we know the word Viksit Bharat now. But one of the things he is clear about is that we must all have a vision, you know, whether it is the states, the districts, whether it's organizations like yourself, whether it's universities, etc. I think it's important to develop the vision. So in some sense, I have my own vision too. So it's a very democratic process in that sense. So when I talk about a vision, I was in Ashoka University yesterday, and I always call it a vision. You know, what I speak, it is, there is no official vision as such. There's the PM's vision, there's everybody's vision. So that's the first thing I would say. All of us should participate in developing that vision. The second general point I would make is that the goal is quite clear. You know, we are currently a lower middle income country, and the initial goal in the next 10 years, let's say, is to become an upper middle income country and then a high income country by, of course, politically the date is 2047, but as an economist I generally think of the middle of the century, which is 2050. It's easy to remember for foreigners and others, you know, instead of 2047, which we of course know very well, but for others. So now what does that mean? That means many things. It should mean different things to different people, and the way I look at it is to think of the big trends in the global economy and how we can fit onto it. I think your big role, so I won't say too much about it, but just maybe 1 minute, because your role really is more domestic. So maybe I'll give small on the international and then little bit domestic, and then we can see where you want to go, right? So on the international scene, I see three big trends. One is the global demographics, okay? So I have some very nice graphs which in the Fireside Chat we cannot see, but they are very dramatic. The global working age population, the labor force, which is school educated, etc. The basic point which comes out very sharply from these graphs and projections which we have made is that by and large in the developed countries, the labor force is going to decline. In India, it's going to rise, okay? So the global human capital, so that goes with what economists call comparative advantage. So the comparative advantage of India in human capital or human resources is going to dramatically increase over the next, let's say, 25 years. So how to make use of it? And that is the three trends which then are important for thinking about it. I'll just mention them. We can explore if you feel like it. I don't want to. So one, as I said, is the demographic trend. The second is the, you know, there are various ways to put it. The politest way is diversification of supply chains, right? We talk about de-risking. Everybody talks about various things. But in some ways, it is the last opportunities. The way simply to put it for you who are not directly involved in these things is that in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Southeast Asia took advantage of FDI and supply chain, value chains they used to be called. The diversification of value chains happened in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, and it went mostly to Southeast Asia, starting with Korea, Taiwan, etc. But we kind of were not very positive towards FDI, so we didn't see its potential. Now we recognize its potential. Politically, I'm talking. Economists, we have been saying for ages, you might remember the miracle economies, etc. I mean, that is my bread and butter from, I don't know, 50 years ago. 93, that report was written. But the point is, the important point is the political system has to recognize this, and that it has. So it's kind of the last chance to get these so-called anchor investors into the country. And you've now all heard of the mobile revolution, Apple, etc., right? They're shifting the thing here. But I have gone to all these factories all over the country, and it is very amazing. I won't spend more time on this, but it's an incredible change which is happening. It's the opportunity, it's to grab this opportunity. So that's the second one. And finally, the third one, which perhaps is more related to finance, is what I call unbundling of all services. Now, you've heard of business centers, you've heard of GCCs, that is part of the business services unbundling. But this is going to happen in every level, in governance, in health services, education services, etc. Why? It's the same demographics. Okay, so added to this demographic decline of labor in the developed countries is now the anti-immigration sentiments. For a long time, people thought, oh, if they have a shortage of labor, there would be more immigration. But as you know, politically the system is changing. People are becoming very anti-immigrant. So what is going to happen is the services are going to unbundle, and parts of which are human capital intensive will shift to India and other places. And our opportunity or goal must be to get as much of that as possible. That involves a whole lot of innovation, etc., etc. So those are the trends, those are the things we have to exploit. How, that's a long talk in itself. But finally, let me come to the domestic side. Now, the important thing here, I want to just give a small message. We can again pursue it further because this is related to your subject here. You know, what we have to recognize kind of as economists or intellectuals is the structure of our economy is very, very different from the places we draw lessons from. And I will just give one or two small things. So the implication of that, actually, let me tell you before, you know, when we talk about USA or Europe, it's very simple. It's one thing. It's the market up there in New York or something, by and large. But in India, you have many, many layers, okay? And I'll just give you an idea of that layer. So our financial system has to be multiple, okay? It is not a single, simple thing. So when we can talk about development of bond market, that's one segment. We talk about SHGs, that's another segment, and so on, you know, NBFCs, etc. But this is not just out of the blue. It's because the layers of the economy are very different. So how are they different? I've recently been doing research on the nature of the labor market, and one incredible fact has jumped out, which we kind of always knew, but it really comes out from the analysis, is that out of the labor force, 57.7% of the labor force is self-employed. Okay, that's huge. There is nowhere else in the world that this happens. Okay, that requires a whole different way of thinking about finance and other things. Okay, as I said, we can go into the various things, but this is unique. Believe me. I mean, I have not done a search recently, but I can't think of any other country which would have maybe more than 25 or 30%. So this is really huge. So one of the challenges for us is how does finance connect with these? Okay. So let me leave it at that. That kind of gives you, so the point here I'm making is the domestic economy, and of course, to get productivity to become high-income country and to become developed country, to connect it back to my goal, I have to think, we have to think, I have to think, as part of my challenge, is how to make this segment of the population more productive, because that will be part of the goal of making it an upper middle income country and a high income country.
That's very true. These are very good challenges. The demographic dividend and the demographic trend, I think, is only available to us for a short time. And if within that short time we are not able to capitalize on it, it's going to be a challenge. Many times I wonder, sir, you have of course raised so many issues, but I wonder, we are adding about 1 crore people in the workforce every year. And the way you've mentioned that nearly 60% of the people are self-employed. So once they are entering the workforce, what are the opportunities that they have? Before, sir, before I come to that, I just wanted to have your assessment on the external sector. We have been grappling in the country with Trump tariffs. We are worried our industry, especially MSMEs, could also get impacted because of the Trump tariffs. And we as an MFI or financial institutions are directly related to these MSMEs and small enterprises. So I was wondering, sir, what's your big picture in mind? Or is there any direction or is there any analysis that you would like to share with us on Trump tariff and its implications for the Indian economy?
So, good question, but I have to be very careful. As you know, there's negotiations going on, and it's really, one doesn't want to affect those negotiations in any negative way, but I'll try to give you an idea. So, clearly, the first thing to say is that all these developments, including the Trump tariffs, have created huge uncertainty in the global system. So, one direct impact of uncertainty is always on investment. I'm talking about global investment. I'll come to India. So, so that means that many investors, I mean physical investors, will say, okay, let's wait till this uncertainty clears, and then we'll put all these huge amounts of money into it, right? So, so uncertainty always leads to delayed investment decisions and therefore less investment. Now, clearly, that will affects us also, both in terms of FDI and in terms of domestic investors, because we are connected to the global economy now much more than, let's say, we were 20 years ago. So, so that uncertainty, but the key one, in fact, relates to, that's why I gave you the picture. It relates to, it will maybe delay or slow down the move of the supply chains which may have occurred to India. So that is the most direct effect that I can see, and probably has already happened. Now, to come to your question, yes, I have done, I mean, just to relate to a point you made, I was involved in the tariff reforms, basically, in the 1990s. So I do happen to know quite a bit about it. So think of it this way. If you have a tariff differential of 20-25%, it just increases the cost and leads to some elasticity diversion. But when you get to 50%, it's like a ban, okay, for 90% of the exports affected by that. This, I'm talking about differential. There's a huge difference between a uniform tariff. So if everybody was applied 20%, 30%, there would be all kind of macro changes and it would adjust, okay? The impact would be much less than what we generally think of. How I know this? This is the argument I made when we were doing the reforms. We reduced tariffs from 300% down to about 10%. And this is an argument I had to make repeatedly, that it looks very bad to you, but no, there'll be adjustments. And that's exactly what happened, okay? That's what the economics told me, and that's what has happened. So it's a different, that's one point which may be useful to your analysis, right? So the differential now I'm talking. So if everybody is at 10, you have plus 20 or plus 50, just to take an example, right? So plus 20 you can manage, okay? There will be adjustment, there'll be less export, whatever, right? If you are your borrowers, there'll be adjustment, they'll manage. But 50% basically means a complete ban, okay? So the question then becomes how temporary it is, right? That's the critical thing. So I can tell you, I traveled around and I have talked to many. In fact, today, I'm going to Bhubaneswar, where I'm going to see an export zone. But basically, what the strategy they were adopted was to see if temporarily they can find other markets. So in some sense, everything has a silver lining. So you have to, again, this is a lesson for everybody. You have to look for the silver lining. That is actually my role. Everybody knows what the problems are. I think of myself having, as you know, 50 years or more, is to look for the silver lining. So the silver lining, which I'm happy to say these people themselves realized and were telling me X, Y, Z. I said, what about this, that? I don't want to get into details, but part of it could be developing your brand. I mean, these are very high quality people who are exporting to the top brands in the world. So what do? So one of the dilemma was we don't want to spoil our brand by, let's say, heavy discounting. I mean, just to give you an idea, because you're bankers, you would be thinking about these things, right? So, but they have to find a way, maybe develop a brand in India, maybe export to Europe, whatever, right? But it has to be short term. Now, as you know, short term help always, and you can see the cabinet recently, 2 days ago actually, took a decision on a whole credit package, okay? So government watches, it does. That's the main message. I can't get more deeply into it. But where there is a problem, that's one big thing which is new actually. The government is constantly now talking to people. People like me are giving feedback, etc., and things are done to mitigate. The long-term one I didn't tell you, the part which is tricky. Just 2 points on that. One, the minister who is involved in these negotiations had said that we should have a deal by November. And the president of the US himself a few days ago said something to the effect that, you know, the deal is, from his side, is done. Now, that's all I can say. I don't want to, you know, it's not my place to speculate about these things, but you have to draw your own conclusions.
So I think the Trump tariffs have, in a way, challenged the economists and the political system, and the uncertainty continues despite nearly a year that he's in place. The uncertainty continues and things are getting impacted. So closer home, you've been at the helm of affairs and you have mentioned about the financial sector yourself. You're right, in a country which is continent size, there's nothing homogeneous here. Different country, different regions, different languages, and layer after layer of institutions and layer after layer of businesses. One hand, most modern businesses who can tap the stock market. And on the other hand, as you said, 60% people self-employed, and they have to raise resources at the grassroots level. So if we have to become Viksit Bharat, I think the financial sector will have to rethink, re-strategize, as now they're catering to a $3 trillion economy, and within 2 decades, they'll have to cater to 22 odd years to a $30 trillion economy. And I generally say to become a general manager in any commercial institution, a bank or a financial institution, it takes about 25 years. That level of maturity that you can take decisions and dispense credit. What would be your vision, sir, or your guidance, specifically on the financial sector, as to the direction in which we are heading and the role that they'll have to play and the sort of strategy that they need to adopt?
Yeah. So, again, 2 things which one of them has been mentioned, but let me start by saying, you know, as you mentioned, I am not here to give financial gyan. I am a macroeconomist, but things which may be relevant to your approach and decisions. So there's 2 of them. One you are very well aware of is the GST. right? So what it does is, the GST is very important from tax. I do taxation. We have you will recall, there's an EGROW paper before I joined the planning committee, NITI Aayog, which we did on GST reform. So that is important not just for the tax reform aspects, but also from the financial side, because it starts the formalization of the economy, right? I'll give you just one small example. There used to be a girl, a lady, who worked for my wife, who's a doctor. So one day she came and asked her that, I want to get a GST number. Well, she's working in the office, she wants to get a GST number. Then we found out that she makes paintings which she has been selling on the internet. This is a girl working in the office. And she had become so big that she wanted a GST number. Okay? There's a huge transformation occurring. I can tell you, it was 2013, after I came back from the IMF, I was chairing a committee, DST committee on services. They wanted to do a service census or something, I forget exactly. At that time, that was the first time I said, why don't you start using GST data? They said the ministry doesn't give it. So I called the minister representative, JS or somebody, and I said, why don't you look into this issue? So data, the GST is going to be a huge source of data. So a lot of lending opportunities are going to open. That's the basic point. The second one is skilling. You said we'll come back. I'll just say it because I think probably we'll run out of time. One of the research I'm doing is on the quality of learning and skilling. Okay, there is a huge need in improving. You know, think back again. We are a lower middle income country. Our learning is okay with respect to that level. But going up this ladder to upper middle and higher, there's a huge improvement in learning which has to take place. And the skilling is abysmal compared to what we need, okay? So there are going to be huge opportunities if not in education, because that is public education, etc., may not be opportunities for the financial sector, but in skilling, there has to be. Now, I already see, you said the layers, right? I already see 3 layers to just simply so that you can focus your marketing or whatever intelligence. 3 layers, right? So there is the high skill system, middle and thing, just roughly lower. In the lower, the funds have to come from government and NGOs, right? But this higher skilling system is already in operation. There's a market out there, okay? There's no market in medium, okay? So those are the things I am working on. I'm looking at we are again doing research on this, but let me tell you the high. There's a whole system operating there and coming up. There you can have opportunities for lending, okay? There may be a small person who wants to borrow, for example, just give you one. There is a private skill university, which is university meaning college or a small private person, who is trying to teach risk management, okay? So the market could be somebody working in a corporate office who wants to get into this kind of thing or learn about it, right? So that could be a market for lending, right? It's a new thing. I'm just trying to give an idea, okay? So like that, I would stop at that. I think you got the idea, yeah.
Sure. Sir, you have yourself done lots of research on poverty eradication in our country, and your own research paper, of course followed by IMF and the World Bank, shows that we have been able to take nearly 25 crore people out of poverty in the recent times. There is prosperity in the country. The Jan-Dhan accounts have reached everywhere. MFIs have played a very important role, and they have reached various places. Now the paradigm shift is towards prosperity. The lending institutions, the MFIs, probably they have to also change their thinking. So far, the purpose was to just open an account. And with the Prime Minister's thought of mission mode and Jan Dhan, now that phase is 10 years behind us. We are looking at prosperity, poverty levels have come down, and the customers are also looking at, forward-looking, as to what is that you can, as a lender, offer me. So would you have some thoughts in this new India where poverty is behind us, extreme poverty is behind us, and customers are pretty prosperous? What should be the strategies that the lending institutions at the grassroots level, as you were mentioning, skilling at 3 different levels? We are talking about the grassroots level where MFIs operate. Would you have some thoughts on this, sir?
So, like you said, I think you made an important point that over the last 11, 12 years, there has been a dramatic reduction in poverty. So there are various levels of poverty which globally they use. We have generally just used what is now called absolute poverty, that is virtually eliminated now. So that is clear from the data. So even the next level in the old days, just to give you a there are all kinds of numbers you'll hear which I also forget exact number, but it's all based on a concept which at the World Bank, when they developed the poverty indicator, it's called $1 poverty, that is the absolute, $2 poverty, and $4. Of course, because of inflation, all this is repeatedly adjusted, and now the $1 is, I forget, it used to be 1.9 a few years ago, now it is 2.12 or something, right? Doesn't matter. The simplest way to remember is this 124, okay? It has, okay. So that is virtually eliminated. So poverty, as we have discussed it for the last 50 years or so, is now eliminated. Now, what about the next level, the $2 equivalent, let's say, roughly? So that has declined even more dramatically. It used to be around 60% 12 years ago, and is now down to only about 15%, okay? That's a huge decline of some 30% or something like that, okay? So, and what we have we call multi-dimensional poverty, that also is now down to around 15%. So they're kind of cohering now, because like you rightly pointed out, all the programs of the government which have been directed at empowering the poor have worked. There's no doubt about it, okay? So now the question is, if you look ahead, you should expect that even that vulnerable population will decline, right? I mean, just as a way of planning your credit. So you got to, there's a huge opportunity. Now, I don't know the market, I'm just telling you the overall picture. I mean, you have to go out and look for it. It's going to happen. There are people who will have new demands, who will be more viable, etc. We haven't talked about fintech, but we can do that, but we are running out of time. But you have to develop. So anyway, let me use this opportunity only. You know, one of my first papers in the World Bank was about credit, okay? The basic point which you all know is the cost of credit and the risk of credit, right? So clearly the fintech reduces the cost of processing and the data. That is what I mentioned, the GST. So it connects with that. Now clearly your institution also have to innovate and start using it, right? There's of course in fintech and there's insurtech, but let's leave that on the table, right? And the risk evaluation, again, data-based risk evaluation actually gives you a more realistic picture, so that overall you can still earn a profit. Some loans may be higher risk. So all those systems clearly have to come in, even in your institution. Some of the startups will be more flexible, obviously. They are not burdened with legacy systems, etc. But I think all of you at the micro level have to think of those things.
I think we have had a very good discussion. We have had a very good discussion on this subject. We have had the bigger picture. And as you have seen, Dr. Virmani thinks in a very macro view. He has identified different cycles which are global in nature. Demographic is one place where we can really benefit. The Trump tariffs have added uncertainty and doesn't seem to be ending at all. And therefore, lots of important decisions seem to be getting postponed. And we are on to it. We will make it. But India of today is not the India that it was 10 years ago. We have found our place on the planet. Our strategies are working. Our population is prosperous. They have dreams and they are delivering. Very new institutions are coming up. Factories are being set up. The expectations from the lenders is also changing. The old time, just opening an account, is not what people are expecting from the lending institutions. The times have changed. In front of a prosperous client, it's just not the account opening, but it's also the advice and the opportunities that we can offer. As Dr. Virmani mentioned, he sees many opportunities available to India now. He also sees that India is in its most unique position. Indians at the leadership role are not only getting groomed, not only that they are heading Google and other global institutions, but within the country, the skilling level at that segment is also very strong, and we are producing leaders who can be potential global leaders. I think the country, the economy has massive opportunities, and there are these opportunities which will translate for the financial institutions into many more opportunities. With that, I bring the Fire Chat to a conclusion, back to the organizers.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that very exceptional and very extremely insightful fireside chat. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause once again. A huge amount of valuable inputs for us to take away this morning. Thank you once again, sir. On behalf of the organizing team committee, we would like to present mementos to our distinguished guest. And may I request CGM NABARD and board member Sa-Dhan, Mr. Inigo Arul-Selvan. May I request you, sir, to kindly join us onto the stage and present the mementos. Ladies and gentlemen, this calls for a huge round of applause once again. We thank, sir, a heartfelt gratitude to you for an exceptional session. Presenting a memento to Dr. Arvind Virmani. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs. And we also thank Dr. Charan Singh. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.